All right, so up next, we got a sort of main event. This is kind of like the first hour main event. Triple H comes out, and he comes out and he says, with all the incompetence that goes on in the buildings around here with the government and all this stuff, I have to wonder why I show up and I'm made out to be the bad guy. And he makes an announcement that the contenders for the Money in the Bank contract ladder match at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and he actually says who they're going to be. Of course, Seth Rollins was first, and then he says Kofi Kingston, Jack Swagger, Dolph Ziggler, RVD. Did I say Jack Swagler?
No, I thought you got it right. I thought you said Swagger.
Yeah, Jack Swagger, Dolph Ziggler, RVD, and Bad News Barrett are the only people that he announces. And then he brings out Rollins because he says, it was actually quite funny because he said, the one guy that I can put my finger on as my favorite to win the match is RV. I'm joking. I can't even say that with a straight face. Like, he actually said it like that. It was hilarious.
It's so wonderful to see Triple H finally, in his swagger, so to speak, as a heel character, finally really embracing it, as you've said the past few weeks now, Ashton, because now him and Stephanie can truly be a legitimate force to be reckoned with and rallied against. It's wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. So he brings out his actual favorite to win, obviously, Seth Rollins. Rollins comes out and cuts a promo. Naturally, the fans are chanting, "You sold out," and he just kind of says, "Really, guys? You're still hung up on that? That was 3 whole weeks ago, and you haven't moved on yet?" And he starts talking about how the kind of like the whole shtick about how he created the Shield, so he had the right to break them up, and eventually he gets to the point where he says that he is going to walk out of the pay-per-view with the briefcase, and you're going to be calling him Mr. Money in the Bank. At which point, RVD's music hits, and he comes out. He actually cuts quite the entertaining promo here. He kind of runs down Rollins and Triple H. He talks about how he knows that Triple H remembers him because he crushed his trachea in the elimination chamber match in, I think, 2006 or 2005. I don't remember the exact year. And yeah, that was pretty good. But then he challenges Rollins to a match, and obviously Rollins accepts. Triple H makes the match, and we get Rob Van Dam versus Seth Rollins,
which turned out to be a very entertaining contest. It was nice that a solid promo by Van Dam, preceded it. Insulted Rollins. Loved the line he said about Triple H about crushing his trachea at the Elimination Chamber. I had actually forgotten about that. So way to dig down deep there, Rob. I was genuinely impressed.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that he would forget about these things, but no. I mean, I guess the long-term effects of medical marijuana aren't as bad as everyone thought.
See, Van Dam's living proof, people. But yeah, as far as this match goes, I enjoyed it. Van Dam, I've actually earned a new level of respect for him because he gave an interview recently saying that he, really loves the young talent, the new generation that he sees in the locker room. He actually said that the way they are now, they're great whether or not they wrestle Rob Van Dam. So pretty much saying that he can't even really give them anything because they pretty much have all they really need to know in his eyes, which I thought was a huge compliment. And yeah, I think Seth Rollins really epitomizes that. And these two put on quite a nice match. And Rollins looked tougher than a $2 steak, to use a phrase from good old JR.
Yeah, they put on a really good match here. Van Dam hit pretty much all of his signature offense, including Rolling Thunder. Rollins didn't really hit that much offense. He was kind of on the defensive for most of this match. Eventually, he did end up doing the blackout, though, and as soon as he hit the blackout and went for the cover, Dean Ambrose showed up. He hit the ring and beat down Rollins, and he didn't stop in the ring either. He beat him down out of the ring and all the way back to the ring. Ambrose got a huge reaction here, and Rollins eventually made his way up, kind of runs away and makes his way up the ramp.
Yeah, first of all, let me just say, Van Dam had an awesome sell of the blackout. Loved it. That was terrific.
Almost as good as his sell of the RKO.
Exact. That was the vibe I got from it too. Like, what an RKO-esque sell, and it just further cements in my mind that the blackout needs to become like the new punt. So that said, Dean Ambrose does make the attack. It's great. Dean Ambrose is really connecting with the audience, really being great at that sympathetic babyface who's just so hurt and fueled by such hatred, being stabbed by his best friend, his brother, Seth Rollins. And he gets on the microphone and he makes us a little promise as it concerns Money in the Bank this Sunday.
Yeah, Yeah, he guarantees that if they don't put him in that ladder match, that he's going to show up anyway, that he is going to beat down Rollins, and that he is going to walk out with the briefcase. So basically kind of challenging them, being like, well, it doesn't matter what you do, I'm walking out with the briefcase anyway. And then we would go to a commercial, but as soon as we get back from commercial, we would see Rollins backstage with Triple H, basically begging him to add Ambrose to the ladder match for 3 reasons. First of all, because he knows he can control him. He controlled him for 2 years, and he knows he can continue to do that in the ladder match. Second of all, so that he has his eyes on him at all times, because otherwise he doesn't know where he's coming from, and that's a problem. And third of all, because he wants to see the look on his face when he's staring up at him and Rollins is holding that briefcase and crushing Dean Ambrose's dreams. Great promo by Rollins, great segment, great promo by Ambrose, and really this was just really good stuff all around. I am like, these 2 men alone are making me look forward to the Money in the Bank ladder match, when I'm always less invested when the participants just get announced rather than needing to earn it. These 2 guys make me invested.
I don't say this to be a jerk to you or to try and tease you in any way, but after this whole segment, I'm legitimately starting to believe that Ambrose could walk out with that briefcase.
Yep.
I've been thinking about it, and you know what? He wasn't even supposed to be in this match. He gets in it at the behooving of Rollins, just really adamantly pleading with Triple H, put him in there, I need to keep my eyes on him, which I want to touch on that more in a second. And then he says, I'm going to crush Dean Ambrose's dream. So he goes from an outsider. The heel wants to say that he wants to crush his dreams. That's how he gets in. To me, it all seems to be kind of pointing that Dean Ambrose is going to go all the way. I hope he does, because your reactions on live reactions will be legendary.
Dude, if he wins, I might just break people's eardrums with my live reactions.
I can't wait, dude. I can't. That's what I wanted a few years ago when he was in the other Money in the Bank ladder match, when he was still a member of the Shield and the United States champion. Like, that was the whole reason I put some chips on Ambrose, because I'm thinking, oh man, that reaction is going to be so epic. But really, though, like, again, I don't say that to play up the fandom or anything. Like, I genuinely believe with how all this was structured, that Ambrose could be considered one of, and I do want to stress that, one of the favorites. To me, it really does come down to him or Rollins, which also kind of convinces me that maybe somebody will come out the back door and win it. I'm telling you, dude, this is a very unpredictable.
Yeah, you know what, dude? That's the thing. When you first found out that they were both going to be in the match, the first thing that you told me was, well, they cancel each other out, so it's got to be someone else. And I don't know if I agree with that, but on that same note, I definitely see where your logic is there, and I think that it's got a solid foundation.
It's so hard. Dude, when we get to the preview prediction, which I think is going to be one of our best ones yet, because I don't even know if I'll be able to make up my mind, and we'll be hashing it out in the video. That's what's so unpredictable about these, ladder matches, because you think, oh, well, this guy's clearly been on an upward trajectory, and yet all the while, you don't even know it. A hand in the shadows is grooming that other performer that you didn't even see coming. It's ridiculous. But to me, if Ambrose won it, you've got a whole year to work with. And I wanted to talk to you about something real quick, Ashton, in regards to this match. I read a column recently that said that WWE has got a huge problem because the roster is so saturated right now with so many over guys and so many angles going on and really developing all these guys, that where does that leave the Money in the Bank briefcase winner? I mean, do they hotshot the championship on them? Do they cash him in and lose? To me, I don't see why we're being that narrow and bleak about it. You've got a whole year to work with, kayfabe speaking, before the next Money in the Bank in 2015. Why not, if that's a legitimate concern, play that time up for whoever wins, whether it be Rollins, Ambrose, Barrett, Ziggler, whoever.
Yeah.
Why not use that time to your advantage? I don't really see what the concern is. I think whoever walks away with this, I'm going to feel a hell of a lot better about them than I did after Sandow cashed in. So.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, here's my thing, dude. I feel like something that we've never seen was somebody cashing in the same night that they win the title, or that they win the briefcase, right?
Right.
So to me, Roman Reigns winning the title and then a heel, whether it's Rollins or, in my opinion, another very potential winner, dark horse, Barrett, cashes in that night. In my opinion, that's the only way that I would accept a Reigns title win on Sunday. And I'm not trying to say that I would rage and stop watching WWE if Reigns wins the title or anything, but he is so far from ready, and he proved it more tonight, but we'll talk about that later regardless. So yeah, I feel like the only acceptable way for Reigns to win the title is to have it taken from him within a week. I'll put that number on it, within a week.
Completely agree. Let's move on, I guess.
Actually, you know what? I want to ask a question.
Sure.
Because I feel like I have a really bad memory about this. When Kane won Money in the Bank, how quickly was it before he cashed in?
Honestly, it was the same night because Rey Mysterio had a successful title defense against Jack Swagger, but Swagger.
So we
really
have had that before. I knew that. I freaking knew we've had that before.
Yeah, no, it was. I believe the year was 2010. I want to say.
Dang it! See, the WWE keeps on feeding me this drivel about how it's never been done before, and then I start to believe it, even though I saw it with my. Well, I didn't see it with my own freaking eyes because I was working the night of Money in the Bank 20, I believe 10. So yeah, but regardless, yeah. Freaking WWE, man, with the revisionist history. It was even starting to work on me. Thank you for clearing my head up.
No, of course, and I still think though what you're suggesting could work much bigger than Kane and Rey Mysterio did. Because I'm not saying I didn't like how that was handled, and personally I thought Kane's 2010 world title reign, especially for the promos, was fantastic. But this is the Shield that could potentially, or former Shield rather, walking away with all this glory, whether it be the briefcase on one side, championship on another, and to see that collision, fans would be all in. Not saying that Rey Mysterio wasn't over as a babyface, but I think these guys where they are right now blow him out of the water.
Yeah.
That's just me being honest. And on the same side, on the heel side, while, Kane's turn, I think made people scratch their heads, like, I could see this really being jeered and really being rallied against, like, no, how could you do this to Reigns? He had it. And, just creating that whole dynamic. I think if they pull the trigger on that, we would have a lot to talk about in the aftermath.
Yeah. So things are definitely shaping up to be quite interesting.